When Ryan and I first started talking about references, he brought up The Abyss and Terminator. One of the things that he talked to me about from the start was he wanted to make sure this felt real. And when I say that, obviously it's a Marvel film and there are a lot of sequences that, superhero sequences that have a lot of VFX involved. It's always been so important to me that whenever I'm approached with a project, that it should feel real, it should feel textural. I had some calls early on with Ryan about, his visual intention and kind of language that he was after. He's yet to shoot a film anamorphically, and that's kind of where a format that is my favorite format, but also something that inspired me to become a DP. Most films from the 70s. A lot of the scenes that we're shooting should have a dreamlike quality, and some of these lenses are very soft and they flare beautifully. I had previously shot Loki with the Sony camera. It's always my intention to try and make anything I shoot look like film. Coming off of that project, trying to do as much in camera as we could, and also just being supported by the team around you, the creativity was, endless. There are darker sets and, our sets in general, having ceilings and being able to explore, new spaces that hadn't been seen before. And so the color science with the Sony was very important for me. That kind of gives it that, personality and density and texture that I think is important and beautiful in skin tones. And so that was really important to Ryan, and, in showing him these tests, he was very happy with. On my previous features prior to Loki and obviously Panther, probably majority of the time shot my features on an Arri camera. It was one commercial that I did with the director who I adore, and he said he wanted to use the Sony Venice, and I hadn't used it yet. And so I never really had a job where the director was calling the camera. It was usually a discussion, and then we ended up using, something obviously that I had been familiar with. On the Samsung commercial, I used the Cook Special flares, so it was really nice because those are larger anamorphic. So to have a smaller setup with Rialto running around, kind of capturing these family moments and moments with kids was really nice. When you use a new tool, right, and you figure out kind of your relationship with it, you start to notice the differences between what you used before. And so I was just completely impressed with the color science that the Sony had and the information I was getting in the shadows. And with the LUT I was using at the time, I was rendering just such a filmic quality image. And for me, I'm always trying to make something look like film. After that, I used it as a way on Loki to kind of keep the camera smaller when we had to do bigger setups, but wanted it to be kind of free form. And keeping the camera form factor smaller was really nice, and I appreciated that when using for my larger anamorphic lenses. In Panther, we have this amazing car chase that happens in Boston. When we had to shoot our arrays with our helicopter unit, there wasn't a rig currently made in the United States that supported using the Sony Venice on an array. We sought the help of Team 5, and they made an array for the Sony Venice so we could shoot our night plates that we needed for that sequence. Also, it was very important for me to keep that through line. All of these things, trying to make the consistency in photography and using the same camera. It's like shooting film, right? You want it to feel like the same vision is carried out in multiple units and that it's not switching or changing. Unfortunately, I was never able to work with Chadwick and have always just heard stories about how brilliant of an actor he was, but just how amazing of an individual and human being he was. Since I had never met him, photographing it just, for me, was super important. And I wanted to make sure that, the emotion and the strength of this person, came through. There are so many events during that procession that happen, drummers and dancers. And as the sun's moving across the sky, morning to evening, you're getting all those different textural elements. You feel a part of that event. So we are shooting a major motion picture, and it's a huge sequence and a huge setup. We're also trying to pay homage to someone who's super important, Chadwick, and also T'Challa, but you want it to feel like a live event. Most DPs find it difficult shooting, a large amount of white, 4-day exterior. With the Sony Venice, we found in our testing, when we shot at the base of 500, it gave us 2 stops back in the highlight. So whenever I did day exterior and some fire elements as well, I would shoot at base 500. In that sequence, there is a lot of white. Also working with my key grip and my gaffer as far as timing the day out and making sure that we had enough large overheads to kind of take down those moments, but also making sure that the white still looked like it was in day exterior. You can feel that softness in the highlights. It looks like you've used a silk or a grid. So we had large rags on wires that we, used as like curtains. So a huge curtain rig over this big exterior set. And so playing with that, but then also having the support of the camera and then also timing out the day properly. I mean, all of these different things went into kind of being able to handle the white. We have so many beautiful skin tones in Panther, just shades of brown, shades of black. And I think it's important, like being a person of color, I want to make sure that those sing. They're so beautiful. So you want to make sure they shine and they come through in, your images, but also stay very natural. With the LUT that we use, Tom Poole at Company 3 made the LUT for Panther. And I think it's always important for him as well that it has a filmic curve and it has, soft roll off in the highlight, but a very dense black and kind of, we generally love like a softer black. As far as everything that I've shot with the Sony Venice and the separation of color that I get in skin tone versus colors looking vibrant on set and making LUTs to kind of, go along with the camera's color science, but also LUTs that kind of support that, but then also give me a lot of density in the shadows because my LUTs tend to be a little heavier. I think you see in Panther that it kind of, there's such a through line in like both of those things working together because there's so many different tones and the reflective quality and the density in skin tones. And we just finished our DI on Panther, and I think one of the things that Ryan appreciates is how the skin tones look and how vibrant they are and how personal they are to each kind of character and individual. So I think it's a little bit of a game changer this time around, seeing all of these different skin tones sing like this. And yeah, I was just really happy with how the camera performed, and obviously in post, how it performed with this lookup table that I think we used was pretty great.